My name's Carson Jorgensen. I'm from Utah. My family, we've been running sheep for 150 some odd years now. We still have about 5,000 head, and the struggles are real. And where the sheep industry is today is kind of reflective on what's happened for the last 20, 30 years. And where the cattle industry today is where the sheep industry was 20 years ago. In the early 80s, my grandfather, he led the fight against the imports. New Zealand was really just dumping into the United States. They were really driving the price down. We took it to the Supreme Court and the World Trade Organization. They instituted a tariff for a few years on that. And that was really where it all began. And since then, it continues to happen. We continue to have the imports continue to flood in. And when you look at the sheep industry right now and you look at the import numbers, I mean, we're still in that neighborhood of 60, 65, 70% on any given day of anything consumed in the United States being from a different country. And that's a sad premise because in the 1950s, there were 56 million sheep in the United States. Today, they're a little over between 5 and 6 million. But you look across every state, and it really mimics that. You're at 10% of where you once were. We don't want to see that for the cattle industry because we're seeing it mirrored. And history is cyclical. It happens in cycles, and it will repeat itself. And that is really what's happening to the cattle industry today. So if you can learn anything from sheep man, it's don't do what we did. Make sure that you curb it while you can before this happens. The state of the sheep industry today is really interesting. Last year we saw record low prices. I mean, lambs were selling. We bought a set of lambs for $1.18. This year you're seeing record high prices. You're seeing prices $3.05, something that's completely unheard of. The last 2 years are kind of an anomaly. I know you've seen it. We've all seen it. And the cattle prices, they're not really following suit. So we kind of have to break it down. We have to see what it is and why it's causing these things. So with the sheep industry right now, they continue to say that demand is up, which demand is growing. Right now, though, the market is so volatile that it's hard to plan for the future. You're seeing that in the cattle industry as well. You're seeing those poor prices for your calves, even though you're seeing record prices in the stores. And why is that? What is happening to make these prices do what they're doing? We have to find a way. We have to work together to find a way, to find a solution to take the waves out of this. Because in the cattle market, you see it. The prices kind of do this. Well, in the sheep market, the prices do this. One year, you're $2. The next year, you're $1.20. And it's hard to plan for your future, and it's hard to make a sustainable deal out of that. Because one year, you make too much money. You now have to spend it so you don't have to pay taxes on it. And the next year, you have to take out debt to service it. You all know too well how it works, and we're all in the same boat. So why is it we cannot just make a profit? Why is it that we continue to have this problem over and over again? And I hate to say it, and Bill kind of said it, it's political. Most of the problems that we deal with in the industries, in the cattle industry, in the sheep industry, most of them come from politics. They come from poor policy. They come from people who really don't understand what agriculture is about. You've seen it. You know it. I've seen it. And it continues to happen. Because we hate to make everything about politics. I would as soon not be involved in politics. I'm currently the chairman of the Utah Republican Party. The reason why I got involved, and I'll share this little story with you. The reason why I got involved in politics, I was out riding my horse one day, had my dog. We was working a bunch of sheep up this hill and come up over the top of the hill, and I was like, you know what? I could do this forever. This is great. This is the life I want, and it's the life I want my kids to have. And the little thought come to my head that says, if you don't do something now, it ain't going to be here. It ain't going to be here for you. It ain't going to be here for your kids. Your family's legacy will end here and now. You all know the struggle, and you know exactly what I'm talking about. So what do? It's easy to talk about problems, but it's hard to find solutions. So how do we sustain it? How do we make it go forward? How do we make sure that there is something there for our kids? My friends, it's time to get involved. The most common thing I hear is I don't have time to get involved in politics. The most common thing I hear, it's just not for me. Guess what? If it ain't for you, somebody else will who doesn't have your best interest in mind, who doesn't have your neighbor's interests, who doesn't care whether or not the people of this country have something to eat. Because the world's changing. We see it. We deal with it. And we deal with it first and foremost. The funny thing is, what we do, what we espouse as farmers and ranchers, people have to have us. 3 times a day. I know it's a pretty cliche old saying, but they think of us 3 times a day. So why aren't we a bigger deal? Why are we not making things happen? Why are we underrepresented? It's because most of the time we're out doing stuff. We're out working, we're out making a living, and so we don't get involved. So this is kind of my little plug for each and every one of you. You want to make a difference? You want to change? Start paying attention. Start getting involved. Because tax policy affects you. Public lands issues affects you. Private property rights, it affects you. Do you think somebody else down the road's going to take care of you? We've put our fate in the hands of others for way too long. Once again, the world's changing. We see it. We've seen it from environmental groups. We've seen it from politicians. And over the last year, if there is a silver lining inside of COVID, it's that we exposed a lot of the things inside of the industries that were weaknesses in the supply chain and the importance of farming and ranching. People saw it for a minute, and we all kind of felt it. There was a slight glimmer of hope, thinking, maybe people will care now. Because you've been out there, and I've been out there. I've been in the lambing pens at 1 o'clock in the morning, and it's snowing, and it's cold, and there's frozen lambs laying on the ground, and you think, why in the hell am I doing this? For somebody who doesn't care. You've been there, trying to pull a calf, and you wonder, why am I doing this? But you know why. Because you know you're going to do what it takes to make your family money and to make sure your kids have food in their mouth and to make sure the people in your community and in your country have something to eat. That's why you do it. We love it. We love this way of life, and we need to make it go forward. Right now in the United States, I was looking at numbers the other day. Right now in the United States, if imports cease today, we barely, it is give or take as to whether we produce enough food in the United States to feed our own country. Politicians don't understand this. Food security is now a matter of national security, and each and every one of you are a part of it. People are starting to understand, though. We have an opportunity at this point in time to make a difference and to make a change. You're seeing it with Senator Rubio last week, submitted his probe into JBS. It started about a year and a half, 2 years ago. JBS come in and kind of forced Mountain States Rosen. I'm sure a lot of you saw the story. And I kind of spearheaded that. I had a bunch of people call me and say, hey, what can we do? Like, let's try to keep this plant from closing. I said, it's a long shot. You're already into the final stages of this, but we got a week. Let's see what we can do. So I got on the phone, called a bunch of people, reached out to Senator Mike Lee. We got a letter to Vice President Pence at the time and said, hey, we've got an issue, and this is going to have long-term ramifications for the industry. It then triggered an antitrust investigation into JBS, which put JBS onto a 30-day hold. We knew this was a long shot. But the reason why we pushed it no matter what is because this needs attention. That attention today is still there. These big packers, these big corporations, these multinational people who are running our industries, people are watching. And now's the time to change it. But you have to get involved. It's easy to say. I know, I get it. I'd rather not. But we don't have that luxury anymore. If we want this to survive, you know what you have to do. And this is not at the state level. This doesn't have to be at the national level, but this is at the county level. This is at your city level. Your mayors, your county commissions, they're what are going to change your life, the things closest to you. But as you do this, people take notice. People start to see, and national policy starts to change. Making these inroads with these politicians is very important because most of the time they don't understand. It's not that they're nefarious. It's not that they're trying to ruin your life. It's that they have no idea what it is we do. They don't know how it works. And sometimes it just takes a little bit of explaining to make it happen. When you find people who are willing to stick their neck out for you, you got to get behind them because they are few and far between anymore, and they need your support. But what I'm getting at here, and I think you understand it, is that we have to do something to make this last. Because it is our legacy. It is what my family's legacy means a lot to me. My family's legacy is very important to me because it is who we are. And to make that last is what this life's kind of about for me. But it also goes another step. It is this country. We love it. The patriots within the agriculture community are like nobody else. So I guess my question to you is, do we stand up and fight, or do we roll over and die? Because I don't think many of us have that bred into us. So on the front of I carry this with me everywhere, and I don't know if you can see it. But in the words is one of my favorite sayings. It says, freedom lies in being bold. And I don't think there's a better industry that exemplifies that saying. Your future, my future, our freedoms, they lie in being bold. We're going to have to do things we haven't done before. We're going to have to look at things a little bit different. We're going to have to step outside of our comfort zone. We're going to have to try a little harder to be a little better. Because we don't have a choice, do we? You're backed into a corner. You get it. And I don't have to tell you where it is. But things have to change to be able to move forward. So that was kind of my shameless plug for getting everybody involved, because it's what we have to have. As far as the sheep industry goes and the cattle industry and how they relate, watch your imports. Watch your country of origin labeling. You have a phenomenal organization here. I work with a lot of organizations in my capacity. I see a lot of people in other organizations who say they're doing something, who will look you in the eye and say, oh yeah, we're doing this and this and this. And guess what? Nothing ever gets done. I get frustrated with a lot of these organizations because you go to them and say, we need to solve this problem. And they say, we'll work on it. You check with them 3 years later, what do they tell you? We'll work on it. But with RCAF, things are moving. Things are happening. With your 5014, your country of origin labeling, you guys do not realize how blessed you are to have these people you have working for you. A lot of these things are extremely thankless jobs, and you know who you are. Late hours spent putting proposals together, legislation written, emails sent, calls made. People don't see it, but it's time they feel it. It's time we start working toward these things and coming to proposals. So here's a solution, just so I'm not giving you problems. When you start to identify a problem, such as MCOOL, country of origin labeling, the 5014 spot market stuff, we have to have a plan. You can't just go to a politician or a government official and say, we have a problem. Because once again, most of the time, they don't get it. They don't know how it works. When you approach them, you say, this is the problem. Now here is the solution. This is how we are going to fix it. This is what we would like to see you implement to fix this problem. They then can do something. Because far too often I see them go and say, you know what? We got way too many imports. And they say, okay, well, what are we going to do about it? Well, I don't know, but we have way too many imports. Put together a plan so that they understand. Try a little harder. Dig a little deeper. And put something together. Go to your RCAF officials and say, this is what's affecting us. Like, how should we solve it? Go to your friends, go to your neighbors. Put something together. How do we fix it? Put a plan together. You then take that plan, reach out to me. Reach out to your guys at RCAF. They'll get you with me. We'll get it in front of people. We'll put you in touch with the right people to get things done. Because there are a lot of organizations that could help you. It's just getting connected with them is oftentimes difficult. So that's what these organizations are about. That's what they should be for. So that being said, I think we got a lot to do as we see our country being ran into the ground by a political, I'm not even going to call him leader, a political person who has no idea what planet he's on. We have policy being made by people who are trying to line their own pockets. And we have agricultural policy being made by people who have never seen a farm. How do we change it? Time to start moving, folks. Time to start doing. If I can stress it enough, freedom lies in being bold. I think it's really fitting that your theme for this convention is true grit, because that's what it's going to take to get through the next 2 years. And we can't just look to these politicians to save us. We have to become what we need to fix our problems. So keep working. Keep trying. Look out for your friends. Look out for your neighbors. Get involved with RCAF more than just showing up at convention. They told me y'all are eating lunch here pretty quick, so I'm kind of debating on how long I hold you off on lunch. But I love the agricultural industry, and I'd do anything for it. And I think all of you feel the same way. Let's move forward. Let's innovate. That's another thing we could talk about for days. People keep saying, we can innovate our way to the next level. If we can increase a % here or a % there, that's great. But it ain't going to solve the problem. You've heard it. You've heard people tell you, all you got to do is be more efficient. All you got to do is increase 8%. Let me tell you, your bills are more than that 8% increase. Your bills are costing you more than what you could make. We don't want the government handout. And we ought to be awful careful of that. There are some big things coming down the pipe through property rights, especially Biden's 30 by 30 initiative. It ought to scare you. Because it's going to change the face of how this country works and how agriculture works. But keep your eyes open. This community always watches out for their friends and neighbors. It's time we take that to the next level. It's time we start doing stuff for our friends and neighbors. Look out for each other. Keep a plan together of how to change things. I say, your membership board is not going to lead you astray at this point. They've done some amazing things. They've got me some legislation that we've got out to a couple senators and congressmen right now that we're hoping to see in this next session. Talking about getting rid of the mandatory checkoff and making that voluntary. The MCOOL and the 5014. These people are starting to understand it. They're starting to see it. But we have to stay hooked.